It was a cake with a message. Now it has a very high price tag. £36.50 when it was ordered. After a 4-year court battle, it's closer to £500,000. Belfast bakers Daniel and Amy McArthur walked out of the Supreme Court today, the winners.
Well, I want to start by thanking God.
And God had a central part in this case. The couple are Christians and believe the only marriage acceptable to God is between a man and a woman.
We did not turn down this order because of the person who made it, but because of the message itself. The judges have given a clear signal today. In fact, it couldn't be clearer. Family businesses like ours are free to focus on giving all their customers the best service they can without being forced to promote other people's campaigns.
The couple run Asher's Bakery in Belfast. In 2014, Gareth Lee, a gay activist seen here on the left, ordered and paid for a cake. He wanted it iced with a picture of the two Sesame Street puppets, Bert and Ernie, and the message, support gay marriage. But 2 days later, the company cancelled the order and gave him a refund. Backed by the Equality Commission, Mr. Lee took the couple to court. What's surprising about today's judgment is it overturns 2 previous rulings in Northern Ireland. Mr. Lee won his original case. The bakers were found to have discriminated against him, and the Court of Appeal backed that up. But today, the UK's highest court found there had been no discrimination. It was the message, not the man, that was the issue.
This court has held that nobody should be forced to have or express a political opinion in which he does not believe. The bakers could not refuse to supply their goods to Mr. Lee because he was a gay man or supported gay marriage, but that is quite different from obliging them to supply a cake iced with a message with which they profoundly disagreed.
But Gareth Lee still believes he is the victim in this case.
My money was taken and then a few days later it was refused based upon the beliefs of the business owners. That made me feel like a second-class citizen, and the judgment today tells me that that's okay.
So far, this case has cost the Equality Commission £250,000 of public money. That figure could double if it has to pay costs.
Yes, people would say it was a waste of public money. We don't believe it is a waste of public money because the 2 lower courts had ruled in Gareth's favour. Now we have a situation with the Supreme Court that seems to have overturned.
This case has divided opinion in Northern Ireland, where gay marriage is still not legally recognised. Gareth Lee will now decide if he wants to appeal to the European Court of Human Rights. Mr. and Mrs. McArthur say he'll always be welcome in their shops. Hard to imagine he'll be paying them a visit any time soon.
Jane Dodge reporting. Well, joining me now is the human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell, and from Belfast, John O'Doherty, who's director of the Northern Ireland LGBT organisation Rainbow Project. Welcome to you both. Peter Tatchell, let's start off with the cake then. Here we have a replica of the cake. It's not the real cake, although it has some real icing on it. What's wrong with this cake?
Well, of course, I profoundly disagree with Asher's Bakery in their opposition to same-sex marriage. They claim they're doing so based on their Christian beliefs. But I do not believe that discrimination is a Christian value. And by opposing same-sex marriage, they are supporting discrimination against Northern Irish same-sex couples. Right. So I disagree with them.
But you don't agree with this cake either?
But I do believe that in a free society, people and businesses should have a right to follow their beliefs, and that in this particular case, I don't think it was right that they be compelled to decorate a cake with a message with which they disagreed. And that's good for them, and it's good for everyone, because the Supreme Court has basically said that Ashers should not be forced to decorate a cake with a message, support gay marriage. But equally, the implication is that a gay baker should not be required to decorate a cake with a message against gay marriage. Right. And also, of course, it means that many other people will also have protections as well.
John Doherty, Peter Tatchell's got a point there, hasn't he? This is about advocacy rather than, attitudes to gay rights.
No, I disagree fundamentally. I think there are a lot of questions coming out of today's judgment, not least of all the assertion that a publisher or a printing business, by printing a particular message, that they are endorsing or supporting that message. I think most printers would disagree with that. And I think it's a very dangerous precedent to suggest that, for example, someone printing a political leaflet for a particular political party are therefore endorsing that candidate or that political party. I also disagree with Peter that somehow this is taking away rights from those individuals or from that business. If Asher's Baker Company wanted tomorrow to put up a poster which said, "We oppose equal marriage," they have every right to do that. The difficulty in this case is that they decided, based on their political opinion, to refuse service to someone else based on, I believe, their sexual orientation and their political opinion, which is direct discrimination. That is unlawful. And in Northern Ireland, you can't discriminate on the basis of someone's political opinion. So I fundamentally disagree with Peter.
Peter?
Well, in the light of this judgment, it would mean that businesses would not be required to promote messages that were sexist, racist, anti-Muslim or anti-LGBT. I think that's a good thing. Equally, if you can imagine, if the judgment went the other way, if businesses could be compelled to promote messages with which they disagreed, you could potentially imagine a scenario where a Muslim printer could be legally obliged to print cartoons of Muhammad, or a Jewish publisher could be required to publish a book on Holocaust denial.
I'm surprised you've taken this point of view to some extent, because you're one of the country's best-known gay rights campaigners. You've been doing it all over the world, for goodness knows how many years. And in Northern Ireland, gay marriage is not permitted. So surely you would want to campaign, would you not, together with John O'Doherty in Northern Ireland for the rights that you've been standing for, throughout your career?
Well, absolutely. I do support...
And this is one way of doing it.
Well, I do support the right of Northern Irish LGBT people to marry the person they love. That is a fundamental human right. I think Ashers are wrong to oppose marriage equality, but I also believe in the right of people who disagree with me to hold their opinions, and I would not want them forced to support my view if they have a conscientious objection to it.
Isn't that the point, though, John Doherty? You cannot force people to advocate something that they don't believe in. That is the fundamental pillar of freedom of speech.
And I think that's the question. Does personhood exist within a business? I don't believe that it does. And I think Peter's points are disingenuous. I think a business has every right to refuse to print, for example, homophobic or sexist or racist materials. That is hate speech, and they have every right to object to that. But it is. If it's homophobic, it is hate speech, absolutely.
Yeah, but this is not hate speech. They just don't want to advocate it.
Well, and I think the other important point to make is that when we look at these types of cases and how they're presenting, it's always on the same basis. It's always from a Christian business owner who doesn't want to provide a particular service or product to an LGBT person. We don't see these types of cases from gay people refusing service to Christians. We don't see it from Muslim bakers refusing to provide service to others. The fact is that this is a very singular issue, and every court case we've seen has been very singular.